Fantastic managed to give us some of the worst and some of the greatest movies of 2024 thus far, and we're gonna rank all 12 movies that I managed to watch this past month. Welcome to Cinema, where we focus on the film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know in the comments about what movies you managed to watch and how you would rank them. What is your personal taste in movies, as we have a judge-free discussion down in the comments below, as we all share our different objective tastes on our fun-loving movie experience as a whole. And coming in last place, we have Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Now, this one is not particularly my cup of tea. I had a guilty pleasure with the first one, but the way this film took off, it took its serious notes in a way that didn't naturally progress in the way I naturally would have wanted it to. And with what it took with the horror concept, it didn't have the best lighting around Tigger, getting too close to looking like Pooh, while it takes its own liberties with what it wants for a story. And while I get a general gist of what it's going for, some of the Bloodfest didn't have much substance to the narrative it's going for. It had the start of a base layer for what you're building off of these characters, building up this cinematic universe, but unfortunately doesn't deliver as a whole for the natural progression it has. And coming in number 11, we have The Immaculate, one that has a great adventure for the horror aspect, for Sydney Sweeney stealing the show once again in this great performance, but with the substance that is provided, it is very bare bones with how it progresses its character, how it progresses its story, having some great momentum, but not having great payoff as a whole, having different substances that it has its annoying aspects to just being disturbing or as bloody as possible without having as much meat to how they're progressing the story as a whole. And next up, we have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, this has a great story generally speaking for what it's going after, the way they're incorporating a ghost that betrays someone, and how they're incorporating different fun adventures, bringing in the legacy cast, but there's multiple different subplots that slow down the progression, slow down the urgency of the story, what you're wanting to get from each of these characters, how they're building up, making little consequence of how you're really expecting this story to flow, because once you get to the final battle, it's a short one that doesn't really have too much when it comes to having so many contrivances. Coming in number 9, we have Knox Goes Away, one that's very interesting for what they bring to Michael Keaton as an actor and the director of this film, and how they go into the form of dementia. What they're doing is very baseline for what you're expecting for the exploration of dementia, and how he is involved with being a hitman and trying to get into retirement, and then how he has to help his son out through this different predicament that sets up all the ground rules for having some great adventure and exploration for why certain mysteries are coming about, how Michael Keaton has to set up his character in a way that makes sense for what the payoff is leading up to. And there's certain questions that goes along the way that doesn't always build up to the big payoff that you're really hoping to, but it still has its clever moments, some witty remarks with how it's exploring the world of the Hitman Guard and what they're actually asking for this film as a whole. While it is rather decent, it doesn't deliver largely on its premise. And coming in number 8, we have Kung Fu Panda 4, one that really takes a downfall from what we got in the first trilogy. While it isn't particularly horrible, it goes on this long, elongated journey, and what you get from that is still a Poe that is unfortunately not mature, and he is still the comical abuse character that they go about making it the comical joke that is misplaced in many different areas along the way, how they go about these different contrivances, how you're sort of protecting this character as a whole, and what Poe has to do to become the next spiritual warrior while he is finding the next Dragon Master, goes about this way that doesn't progress in the way you expect it to based on how you get the Dragon Master within the first Kung Fu Panda film as a whole. And so you're changing rules throughout, going about these different side quests that do offer a little bit of substance, have the nice fun vibe that you're getting from the rest of the Kung Fu Panda franchise, but as a whole, it doesn't win my heart over as a huge fan. And coming in number 7, we have Imaginary. Now this is a decent fun time with certain twists and turns along the way, how they go about this progression, building up that takes its time into the real meat of the story, what you're getting from this imaginary presence, this bear that it really doesn't necessarily exist, and how you're exploring this world of psychology in this weird sort of manner, exploring the imagination of kids, the psychological treatment behind that, and what all flows out from that. Builds up to be something that's interesting and compelling, while also still being baseline, not always having the meat of these characters, having some moments where a certain character is shown up but doesn't have as much, and contrived in a way where certain moments build up because it needs to go along that way. And coming in number 6, we have In the Land of Saints and Sinners. Yes, guilty pleasure Liam Neeson fan right here, and this one is one of the better ones, I think, for its story, its script, what you're getting out of the crime thriller as a whole. It builds up the proper elements, establishing some great cinematography from the sweeping scale of Ireland, and what you're getting from that, the cinematography. Robert Lawrence returns as a director that's really grand for what they bring to this, having these terrorists have a threat, and while they're not deep in their character motive, while you don't get a lot from them, you understand the baseline of what everyone is going after, having the protection, having these different motives and side characters that actually mean something. And while it doesn't go complex in its motives, it does deliver on the things that it is asking for the franchise to go after. But before we go into my top 5, make sure to comment down below what movies you watched in March 2024 and how you would rank them from your least favorite to greatest. And make sure to like this video if you're enjoying it, and subscribe if you haven't already to join in this film culture community as a whole. And coming in number 5, we have Love Lies Waiting. Now this offers some great punches with the build up of the progression, the characters, and the involvement and development as a whole. How you're creating this subtle horror aspect that's not so in your face. The A24 vibe definitely has its characteristics, that has great writing, the build up of these characters. While there is some contrivances, the way they meet up, certain elements along the way that pull on in an interesting way, the mystery vibe that you're getting throughout the film has a good enough payoff for what you're asking for this film as a whole. It has a great retrospect for what you're getting out of the cinematography, out of the story, and out of the writing as a whole. And coming in number 4, we have Godzilla Times Kong, The New Empire. Now this is just a fun visual feast. Some of this CGI isn't the greatest, but it is a film that is fun and good to be had on the big screen. What you're getting from these monsters fight, while also having good, decent characters out of this, which was kind of lacking within the last couple of films. And just what you're getting out of some Monsterverse seems to be headed in a decent direction. What you're getting out of the culture, the building up of the back lore of the humans, as well as the King Kong. And while you're getting less out of Godzilla, he feels very pushed to the back burner. He's still essential to naturally remind the audience why he's there, because of the big threats that leads to awesome action fights that builds up to be such a fun time as a whole. And coming in number 3, we have Intent Unknown. Now I was sent this screener from a local Iwin that was filmed in my area, and so I'll probably have a link to this description where you can rent it down in the description below. That I just enjoy the general psychological thriller vibe, and while it is an independent film, it does have rather good sound quality, and the progression of the story and the motives behind certain characters. It has this certain psychological effect that builds up, and I am on board with from the very beginning, and how they build up these characters, building up these certain vibes. And while there's certain aspects where the characters don't go all into their performances for what you're asking for, how they're building up and establishing each of the particular roles that are involved, ultimately it still creates a great psychological vibe that has grand music and an atmosphere that really builds up in a suspenseful and gripping way that I was really on board with. And coming in number 2, we have Cabrini. Now this isn't one I have particularly watched a whole lot, but it is a very educational film. As a Christian and as someone that is going and enforcing this film, it is not heavily faith-based and enforcing any of its beliefs upon you. It's going into Catholicism, and in the late 1800s and early 1900s, being the first lady missionary and what they're doing to send her out on the field, the different struggles along the way. It doesn't go super deep into the tiny little details, but it progresses in a way that the time watching it feels warranted, even for as lengthy as it is. It is a great educational film for what you're getting for the drama, not being so much of a documentary. It can go harder on what it's going and make it a little bit better, but for what you're getting, it is naturally polished by the Hollywood general idea and still delivers on what you're expecting from this film when you're wanting to sell it to a general audience to be a good film that doesn't hide too much, but still doesn't expose too much of being limited on the viewership that is involving. But that leaves at number 1, you know it, you know it, Dune Part 2, the great cinematography, the scale that Denis Villeneuve brings to the table, creates this visual feast just by the cinematography and the actors all throughout. Zendaya, Timothée Chalamet, Josh Brolin, and so much more just bring up so much complexity to the characters, to this universe that is so deep and complex, that is so close to the book. And while there's a couple characters that just me as a big fan of the book is going into this film for, it still immerses you into the experience, makes me bring back memories, bring the big picture onto the big screen, and for how well they are crafting this film, for the visuals alone, let alone building upon a complex psychological, religious, and theoretical film, just diving into it each time, getting something a little bit different each time by the way they're progressing Paul as the chosen one, and the Muad'Dib, and how you're getting all of these different people groups, the threat that's the villains and the protagonists, create such complex boundaries between all of these characters by all of the visuals, and how well this piece of cinema is crafted as a whole just really immerses you into the grounds of this film. And so that's just my personal ranking of all 12 March 2024 movies I saw ranked. Let me know down in the comments below what movies you saw and how you would rank them, and make sure to like this video if you and subscribe if you haven't already, so you can join in this film culture community where we talk films each and every day. And thank you for watching. Bye for now.